You know that amazing feeling when a hummingbird zips into your yard? It's just incredible. But what if the very things we do to attract them could actually be hurting them? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into the science you need to know to turn your backyard from a potential danger zone into a true thriving haven for these tiny birds. So, let me just ask you straight up. Is your backyard a haven or is it a hazard? It's a tough question, I know, but stick with me, because by the end of this, you'll have all the tools to make absolutely sure it's a haven. Here's what we've got on tap. First, we'll uncover a hidden threat that could be lurking in your feeder. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of feeder safety. After that, we'll zoom out to look at other dangers in your yard, talk about what to do in an emergency, and finally, we'll see what it takes to go from just being a fan to becoming a true protector. Okay, let's jump right in with something that might surprise you. It turns out, even a feeder that looks sparkling clean can be hiding a deadly threat for the very birds you're so excited to see. So what is this hidden killer? It's a fungal infection called candidiasis, and honestly, it's one of the most common and totally preventable ways that hummingbirds die at feeders. It grows in nectar that's started to ferment, and what it does is just awful. It makes the hummingbird's tongue swell up so much that it literally can't eat. And this kicks off a devastating, tragic cycle. You see, the fungus infects the tongue swells, and the bird can't get any food. As it gets weaker, its immune system crashes, which, of course, just lets the fungus grow even faster. The poor bird is surrounded by food, but it starves to death. It's heartbreaking. And get this isn't just about one bird at your feeder. This thing spreads like wildfire. A single infected hummingbird can visit feeder after feeder, basically turning them all into contamination sites. That means one dirty feeder can cause an outbreak across an entire neighborhood. All right, that was pretty grim, I know. But here's the good news, the really good news. This is almost 100% preventable. So let's get into the science-backed rules that'll keep your feeders and the birds safe and sound. Pay close attention, because this chart right here is probably the single most important thing you need to know. Heat is the real enemy here, because it makes nectar ferment super fast. You have to clean your feeder based on the temperature outside. If it's cool, under 70 degrees, you're good for about 5 days. But when it gets really hot, over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, you have got to clean and refill that feeder every single day. No exceptions. So what do you clean it with? Well, for your regular cleanings, a simple mix of 1 part vinegar to 4 parts water is perfect. If you start seeing any black mold, you'll want to use a diluted bleach solution. But, and this is a huge but, never use dish soap. It can leave behind a residue that strips the natural oils from a bird's feathers, and that makes them vulnerable to getting cold and wet. And what about the food itself, the nectar? It could not be easier. 1 part plain old white table sugar to 4 parts water. That's it. Seriously. No red dye, no brown sugar or organic sugar. They can have levels of iron that are toxic to birds. And please, never use honey. It can actually help nasty fungus grow. And if you're still on the fence about red dye, just listen to this. Research shows that a hummingbird drinking that red stuff would be taking in a dye concentration about 10 times what's been shown to cause DNA damage in lab animals. The red plastic on your feeder is all they need to see. The dye is just a completely unnecessary risk. Okay, so we've got our feeders totally safe. Awesome. But our job isn't quite done. A safe feeder in a dangerous yard doesn't solve the whole problem. We need to look at the bigger picture and spot those other, less obvious threats. And the single biggest threat out there might be something you look through every day: your windows. It's estimated that a staggering 1 billion birds die from window strikes every year in North America. Hummingbirds are especially at risk because they're so fast and they get into these high-speed territorial chases. But there's a really simple physics-based trick to prevent this. It's called the 3-foot or 15-foot rule. You either place your feeders super close to a window, within 3 feet, or pretty far away, more than 15 feet. Here's why. If they're right up close, they can't build up enough speed to get seriously hurt if they hit the glass. And if they're far away, they have enough time and space to see the window as a barrier and avoid it. The real danger zone is that space in between. Now here's something that blows a lot of people's minds. We all think of hummingbirds as these little sugar addicts, right? But nectar is just their energy drink. It's the carbs. The vast majority of their diet, 60 to 80%, is actually insects and spiders. That's where they get the crucial protein they need to, live. And that's exactly why pesticides are such a nightmare for them. It's a double whammy. First, some pesticides get into the plant's nectar, and studies show this can actually slow a hummingbird's metabolism down by a quarter. But just as bad, those same chemicals wipe out all the little bugs and spiders in your yard, essentially starving the hummingbirds of the protein they desperately need. Okay, so what happens when, even with all our best efforts, we find a bird that's in trouble? In these moments, it is absolutely critical to know what to do, and maybe even more important, what not to do. Here's a predator you probably weren't expecting, a praying mantis. Yeah, really. Late in the summer, the big ones can actually be large enough to ambush and kill a hummingbird at a feeder. Now, you don't need to hurt them. They're great for your garden. But if you see one camping out on your feeder, just gently move it at least 100 yards away.
All right, if you find a bird that seems sick or hurt, listen up, because this is so important. These are the common mistakes people make. Don't give it honey water. Don't just wait and see. A big one, don't assume a bird that's cold and still in the morning is dead. It might be in torpor, which is kind of like a mini hibernation they use to save energy. But most of all, don't try to be the hero and nurse it yourself.
The single best, most effective thing you can do is get in touch with a licensed professional right away. A hummingbird's metabolism is off the charts, so every single minute matters. A fantastic resource is ANO.org. You can go there to find a local wildlife rehabilitator who has the training and tools to actually save that bird's life. Wow, we have covered a lot. So now let's pull it all together. Let's talk about what it means to make that really important shift, from just being someone who enjoys watching hummingbirds to being a true, responsible steward for them. This really breaks it down, doesn't it? A fan might think red dye is helping. A steward knows the color of the feeder is all it takes. A fan might clean their feeder on a schedule, say, once a week, but a steward knows it's all about the temperature. A fan might spray for bugs, but a steward understands that those bugs are life-saving protein. It's really about moving from old habits to informed action. And this quote just says it all perfectly. Success requires viewing hummingbirds not as decorative additions, but as wild animals with specific biological needs and vulnerabilities. They aren't just pretty things to look at. They are wild, fragile creatures, and they are counting on us to understand what they really need. So we're back where we started, but now everything's different. You have the knowledge. You know what to do. The choice is yours. Is your backyard going to be a place of risk? Or are you ready to make it a true life-saving haven?